Welcome back to another special edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Norman, your host. We are fortunate enough this morning to have three local Commodores with us to talk a little bit about the change in race schedule this summer and kind of where the world is. From Crescent Sail Yacht Club, we have Dave Simon. From Bayview, we have Ryan Farrell. And from the Grosse Pointe Sail Club, we have Andrew Moreland. So first of all, guys, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with us. The goal here is to kind of set understanding, so if somebody's racing in the series, they understand from your mouths, because sometimes when you read things, people will take it. There's been a long argument over the last week, is a sailboat a motorboat, and all the other kinds of discussions that go online, and I thought this would be an easy way to sort of kill the bird with one stone. So first of all, welcome, and then, guys, maybe get into what was discussed in changing of the schedule.
Yeah. This was actually a very easy process. I think for the first time in a long time, all three Commodores involved are actively racing Commodores. And I think because of that, we all had a very common interest in what was going on, and we could see it developing before we even had a chat. We were pretty much on the same page.
Yeah, and we had been talking with Bayview through the whole winter about how to make this, the best Bayview one design regatta ever. Crescent has been hosting the dinghy fleets, and we really have a lot in place to step up the support, and just again, the two clubs were intent on making the Bayview one design regatta the best experience. It's had a great history. I consider it the premier sailing event on Lake St. Clair for the year, and we were super happy to support it. So it's just really obvious that as things became uncertain, you want to put certain pegs in the sand, and the Bayview one design regatta, if anything is going to be certain on Lake St. Clair, we wanted that to have the most certainty around it.
Ryan, when did the planning start?
So the planning for this event starts basically after the event ends the previous year, and as this all started to unfold, it's started becoming very clear that this event was originally scheduled for May 19th through the 31st, and that's quickly approaching. And there's a lot that goes into this. We're bringing, we typically have race officials coming in from out of town. We have boats coming in from out of town. This event normally features roughly 150 boats from Great Lake St. Clair and beyond. There's just a lot that goes into it, whether it be planning the party, planning the on the water events, the staging, where we've had great help from Crescent over the years. It just really got to the point where we realized it wasn't feasible to have it this quickly. Dave and I had been having multiple discussions, and we had chatted, and then what really amazed me was how, like Andrew had pointed out earlier, how well we were able to just get everyone on the same page, coordinate this, and really what's amazing is the timing of it. I mean, I've heard of things like this where they may take months for people to get together and work these out. And the first real conversation about this was, I believe, guys, last Saturday. And we have talked Saturday, and by Wednesday evening, it was done and the announcement was sent out. So, I can't thank these guys enough for their cooperation and, just the speed with which we were able to get this done.
How do you determine what races get moved and what races have priority over other races? Is that a part of that discussion?
In this case, it was a discussion with, like Dave and Andrew said, everybody's top concern was the sailors. It wasn't a my club, your club sort of deal. These are typically set out in advance by DRYA. That's been a year-over-year thing. But this was one of those things where we all just came together and looked amongst the three of us at what the best way to accommodate these events were. And like I said, very, very quickly came to a mutual decision, and then the three of us approached DRYA to make the change on the schedule officially.
Dave, what kind of numbers are we talking in volunteers that have to be moved for this process, and/or boats? Either Andrew, either one of you, or Dave. That's a large group of people that's got to be connected and figured out where they're headed, and just logistically, this is a nightmare. Yes.
For the Bayview 1 design, it's an order of magnitude, or bigger, or maybe more than an order of magnitude bigger than the Crescent Regatta. But I don't want to minimize what we do for the Crescent Regatta. We have a tremendous number of volunteers. We have a party. We have a ladies' luncheon. We have all sorts of things that go on. But shifting all that, a couple of weeks or a day, it turned out we only shifted it one day. That's much, much easier than trying to shift the Bayview 1 design. We'd actually talked about some what ifs, in previous years of trying to team up regattas over a weekend. And so frankly, I'm pretty good. We end up with a 2-day sailing weekend. Andrew can talk about their events actually starting Friday night and then carrying through with a finish up party at Crescent on Sunday. And that's going to be a great winning weekend. So, and for us, to shift a day, this far out, that's not a big deal.
Andrew, since we're dealing with something in a pandemic that we're really not sure, is there a contingency B plan if the stay-at-home order gets continued or gets extended at all?
I think if that's the case in August, then no. Hopefully by the middle of June, we'll have this kind of straightened out enough that we know where we're headed. But, as you just pointed out, at this point, it's hard to do that. I think our only intention, and the reason why the Grosse Pointe Sail Club got involved, was because it was very obvious that if we were going to get a program together like this, it was going to have to be pushed really late in the season to have any hope of it running. And so that just happened to fall right around where the original schedule had the Grosse Pointe Sail Club Regatta and also the Crescent Regatta. And, Dave and I had talked about the possibility of doing this sort of thing in the past anyway, but we never really had the impetus to implement all of that. And I think because of the circumstances, it was all very easy. But if we're still talking shelter in place in August, then I don't think there's any option but to just walk away and hope for a better year.
It's a hard question. You see the harbors opening this summer if we stay even through a mid-June stay at home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you see a possibility of harbors opening without clubhouses opening, or any kind of just going to boats kinds of things just to be able to use those things?
Most likely.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the question. You've got a one design fleet. The order is at the moment, I still haven't figured out from the governor whether a sailboat is a motorboat under power or a sailboat under sail. But that said, is that you're supposed to be all from the same households and the same addresses. So with these big boats and these big fleets, are a bunch of people living together, or are we fudging the addresses? What are we doing?
You know what, Greg, there's so much uncertainty, and where we're sitting today on April 18th is hopefully a lot different than when we're sitting in a month. I mean, the world changed an awful lot in 2 weeks, right? And I think the world can change an awful lot again over another 2, 3 week, 4 week period, right? So we just want to do the right things, right? And right now, the right thing, seems to be looking at the calendar, shift the Crescent Regatta to the Sunday, August 30th, and Grosse Pointe Sail Club events to the Friday, Saturday, 28th, 29th, and then move the bots to that 14 to 16 weekend in August. And that's the best we know today, right? And because nobody wants to go sailing more than I do, right?
Right.
I mean, realistically, if we're still in a household only, sailing situation, my wife and I are going to enjoy some beautiful sunset sails. That's what the season looks like.
Greg, also, the other thing that we need to think about, and the Grosse Pointe Sail Club has a Tuesday night series that was set to begin on May 19th, and that's obviously not going to happen. And we're now working on contingency plans to make that happen in June. But going beyond just the requirements of single household crews, we also have to worry about our race committees. And in a lot of respects, our race committees are not young. and they are at particular risk. And we need to keep that in mind while we're putting all of these dates together and hoping for the best. And right now on Tuesdays, we have a contingency plan to begin on June 2nd, and a plan to begin on June 9th, and a plan to begin in August. It's just impossible to tell at this point.
You know, you spend your whole lifetime at a sail club, you end up as Commodore. It's a one-time year appointment opportunity to be able to manage, organize, direct, if you will, in all of your clubs. And God says, by the way, we're going to tap you on the shoulder and do some things that you have to almost put aside your agendas. So I guess a certain amount of credit goes to you guys as Commodores, but do you get any of your agenda done when you're dealing just with this kind of thing in terms of how you organize your yacht clubs?
Well, thus far, we've been canceling events more than we've actually attended them. But I can tell you that the first party that comes up is going to be a doozy.
Well, and I think to that end, though, Greg, when you say we all have our agendas are to advance the sport of sailing, to do whatever we can to get people out on the water and having fun, and we're still able to do that. You know, we've got other things going on. All have other things going on in the background. I mean, my God, just down at Bayview right now, I'm in the middle. Well, we're all worrying about high water levels. I got a building renovation that's going on. We've got now COVID-19, and oh, by the way, I've got a baby due in like 7 weeks. So it's an incredibly busy year, but we're still working together. We're getting this stuff done, and if everything works out great, we're going to still end up with a great season of sailing, maybe shortened, but I think everybody's itching to get out there and get on the water, and once we're allowed to do it, I think it's going to be great.
Ryan, I think what I was referring to is that you have this opportunity, you're on the flag, you come through the gamut of being vice and rear Commodores, and all of a sudden you've planned for this year. It's got to be semi-disappointing to you guys and I don't mean agendas that are negative agendas. I'm just saying you spent a lifetime getting ready for the spot, and all of a sudden there's this huge, horrible problem in front of you that you obviously have to deal with. But it does put other things on the back burner. That was really my point of discussion.
Yeah. I mean, I'll double up what Ryan said. I mean, our only agenda is sailing. Everything else is supportive of that, right? And honestly, we're in great shape in every way except being allowed to go sailing. So we just got to fix that, and we'll be just fine.
Andrew, you said earlier, being participants in this race also gives it an added venue of opportunity that you want to sail. There's no doubt about that, but you also have to be safe, and I think that's something you guys have worked hard on to make sure that it's being taken care of. So what's next for you guys in terms of getting this thing ready?
Well, with the Bayview 1 design being the biggest, the one that requires the most planning, we've already reached out. Actually, before we made any official change, we've reached out to our primary race officers to make sure their availability. We've reached out to our sponsors, let them know about this, and now we have a little bit of breathing room here, so we can figure out what's going on. And we've got some the key things taken care of, and from there, once we have a better understanding of what's going on with the state, we can start making the more formal arrangements, getting ready for parties, selecting getting the race committee votes settled and things of that nature. But right now we've got the big stuff done, getting the key people in place, and in the process of amending the race documents.
You guys see that we're starting late. Do you have an idea that you might finish late in terms of maybe going into September as part of that discussion? And is most of this done around the Mackinac planning?
Really, I wouldn't say that any of this is really scheduled around the Mackinac end of it. July tends to be pretty well, not off limits, but people typically don't seem to schedule much because there's so much other stuff going on throughout July. And if things change this year, if for some reason there's not as much sailing in July, maybe some things will end up getting scheduled in place there. But from a Bayview perspective, our intention is we will be holding the Mackinac race unless we are told that we are absolutely legally not allowed to do so. From extending it on the tail end, I don't know what other people have in mind. But we do already have racing that goes through the first weekend in October. So, at a certain point, we're going to be dealing with snow.
When they ring the bell and let folks work on their boats and put boats back in the water, it's going to be an interesting process of seeing how fast they can get boats in the water, because obviously most folks haven't been working on them at this point. Now, weather's been a part of that, but it's going to take a while to get it ramped up, to get everybody back in place. I think that's something else that's going to happen. So that said,
it's going to be a madhouse.
well, I think if you're in the front of if you came out last, you got an advantage over those who came out first in the fall. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Any thoughts about your leadership roles within your clubs? And maybe the last question would be, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, we've got a great history and spirit and team of volunteerism at Crescent, and I think all the clubs do. All the sailors pitch in. As we've been sort of dealing with these things, just tons and tons of support and going forward enthusiasm from everybody involved. So, sailors by nature are very resourceful and very, whatever the weather throws at us, we're going to handle the best of it sort of attitude. And I think, as things get lifted, we're just going to see people. It's not going to be these three Commodores doing all the work. It's going to be hundreds of people volunteering and getting out there and making sure that thousands of people have a lot of fun on the water. So.
Andrew?
Just taking it one day at a time. The schedule obviously was put out long before the pandemic forced us to change, and just trying to make the best of what we've got left. And I think the next couple of weeks we're going to have a much better idea where we're going and what we can keep in place as originally intended and what needs to change. But I think our job is to keep morale up and keep people connected, and hopefully we'll have some fun before this is all over.
Ryan, I guess the one question I want to ask you is there more pressure on Bayview changing schedules because you're the title sponsor on this race?
I don't know that I'd say more pressure. We're all working together. We're all getting our events moved around. We're going to have these happen. I mean, I think part of this has actually created a lot of relief for our volunteers and our people running the race at Bayview, because now we've got some time to a little more time to think everything through and make sure we are providing the event, the same quality event we have for year after year. If we had had to stay with this same date as we were going to be put in a position where we may have had a great on the water event as we usually do, but we very well may have suffered, maybe not even been able to have a party or awards or anything like that. So, quite frankly, this is a relief from a race management standpoint. One thing real quick I did want to mention, it kind of dawned on me that I think we talked about what we have changed. I don't think we've necessarily mentioned where we're at right now. So I want to just kind of go over the schedule as it stands for folks, if you don't mind.
Please do.
So now the Bayview 1 design is scheduled for the weekend of it's August 14th, 15th, and 16th. Grosse Pointe Sail Club has moved to Saturday, August 29th, which will be followed the next day by Crescent Sail Yacht Club on Sunday, August 30th. So that's what the schedule currently stands at.
And that schedule will be put up at the end of this interview, and so that folks can see it. I keep thinking from a government standpoint. You think of the 100-year floodplain when they figure out hydrology and they figure out maps and things of that nature. And this is one of those 100-year floodplains. You haven't made any kind of concessions since Second World War, which is long before any of us were born. And I'm the oldest guy in this conversation. That said, you just have to kind of be patient. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you guys was just to kind of put a face to what the planning was. The information's gone out, but if you watch the social media platforms, they get a little crazy with information. But the best is hopefully to come. And that being said, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time. Has anybody else got anything they want to mention? If not, I will thank you so much for your time, and anything we can do to let everybody know what's going on will be appreciated. So Ryan and Andrew and Dave, thanks for pre-planning and getting things out ahead of it. And let's hope that we're all hoisting sails here in the next month or so.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for having us on this morning.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.